Packers citing 2 reasons here.
Yeah, they're both nonsense.
Brew, number 1, player safety. Number 2, pace of play.
Yeah, they're nonsense.
Why, you know?
I mean, those aren't the real reasons.
Number 3, they beat us in a game. Do you want to see the Tush Push banned?
So I've been on the record for 2 years that I don't think this is a football play. I think that the NFL's playing a dangerous game because any season that if the Eagles quietly in the offseason got great at this, and instead of getting 1.5 yards, they got 4 yards, and they're just like, hey, 1st and 10, opening play of the game, tush push down the field. Then you'd have to change the rules mid-season, and that would look bad.
Halftime.
I think it's right. I think it's bad for TV and all these reasons. Sadly, you gotta wait at least a year to ban it.
Because they won the title?
Yes. I don't want to hear Philly fans. You won. You earned it.
Wait that long. When we won a title in New England after beating up the Colts.
Listen,
Coach,
Coach, I get it. It is tough when you are the reigning dynasty and they keep changing rules after you've beaten a team. Really it happened to you. It happened to me. I get it. But we are more gracious than Eagle fans. And if Eagle fans have a rule change that's directly, specifically about them, right after they win a Super Bowl, it will be like they won 10. And you'll be like, oh, you had to cheat to beat us. We would have never lost. But they took it away. So wait a year, hope the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, and then change it. But you can't change it right now.
No, that makes all the sense in the world. Look, I'm indifferent really to it. I do think this is definitely a shot at the Eagles because no one does it as well as them, right? And I mean, ask the Bills, right? Yeah. So it's not like it's an unstoppable play. But if they do ban it, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I feel like, and I can't think of a player that's gotten hurt in this. Right?
Chris Jones in the Super Bowl.
Well, he looked like he didn't.
He got hurt.
It looked like he didn't like.
Unbelievable that you're going to use this random moment in time with Chris Jones when the dude lined up like upside down backwards, twisted in a pretzel to try to stop this play, and you're going to say that it's because of the play. Okay? That's like saying, well, we handed the ball off to a running back and he ran into a defensive player and that player got injured. And look, see, running, when we hand the ball off and they run into a defensive player, that was an injury. We know that this play has not led to any increased risk of injury. We know that. So it's so disingenuous to throw out Chris Jones like that. Like that's... I can't even believe that. And then to keep repeating this absolute nonsense that is bad for television is insane. Is absolute insanity. Again, you know what's bad for television? Having Patrick Mahomes barely be touched and have you throw the flag and have to have Troy Aikman and every other commentator out there be like, that's not a penalty. Having the literal TV ref be like, that's not a penalty. That's a bad call. You know, having Joe Buck, I mean, like, that's bad television. That's bad television. Having multiple penalties like that happen, that's bad television. That's bad television. That's bad for entertainment value. So just stop with this absolute nonsense. Are you serious? And then you want to talk about Philly fans are not that gracious and, you know, we're more gracious. I know it's meant to be a little bit kind of tongue-in-cheek and trolly, but are you kidding me? Are you serious? You have the delusion of the Kansas City Chiefs fans, and especially Patrick Mahomes fans, that are so absurd. They're like, we're not only going to three-peat, we're going to four-peat. It's like, really? Really? Well, how'd that work out for you? You couldn't even three-peat, and you were already acting like you were going to four-peat. And it's just a clown show, man. It's just such nonsense. And then you got KC fans being like, do you throw snowballs at Santa Claus? Like, oh, okay. Do you even understand what you're even saying right now? I really? Really? And you have gang violence at your parades. We can do this all day, man. We can do this all day. Like, what are we talking about here? It's just the insanity. The insanity, and then the absolute. I don't even know if it's considered a straw man. It's actually probably not, but I don't feel like trying to figure out what the actual term is. Essentially, it's when you use such like an exaggerated argument that there's like, it's essentially becomes like, you can't defend against it because it's like, yeah, well, what happens if we blow up Earth? It's like, well, yeah, if you blow up Earth, that's bad. You're right. We should not do that thing that could potentially lead to Earth blowing up. And it's like, yep, I beat you. And that's what Nick is doing when he's saying, oh, well, if the Eagles get so good at it and they can get 5 yards of play, what are the Eagles going to do? You know, what is the NFL going to do? It's like, that's not going to happen. Number one, and number two, what an insane example that you're using right now. Like, what are you even saying right now? What if the Eagles, or any team for that matter, drafts a quarterback who's 280 pounds, 6'8", and is an absolute monster, and can just call hike, and it's like an NFL blitz video game, and can just put his head down and barrel through people and have the players just pop up in the air? What are they going to do? They're going to outlaw that player? It's an absurd example. So it's not actually like a debate trump card of like, listen, this could get really scary quickly because they could start getting 4 or 5 yards, and then what do you do? Okay, if that actually legitimately happened, first off, that would arguably be one of the most insane things ever. So the entertainment value would be through the roof. That's number one. And number two, yeah, you would probably have to make a rule change, just like they did with Wilt Chamberlain and other basketball players, you know, when you could just kind of sit in the lane, etc., etc. When you saw other basketball players who were gaming the system and getting a lot of extra contact and jumping into defenders, and they were like, yeah, this is technically, you know, legal, but this is not entertaining. And just like how they should change rules in the NFL in terms of throwing penalty flags in the way of, I mean, we can go through face masks, we can do roughing the passer, however you want, whichever one you want to highlight. And it's not just Patrick Mahomes, but obviously Patrick Mahomes, most famously at this point. It's like, yeah, you want to probably change that if you want to talk about entertainment value. I mean, gosh, I mean, even after that game of the Texans versus Chiefs, the big talk was, how is these games officiating? You know, this is a problem. After the Commanders and the Eagles, it was, how amazing are the Eagles? How dominant are the Eagles, scoring the most points in a conference championship game history? It wasn't about the tush push, quite frankly, but the people who have nefarious intentions, they're like, oh, this tush push, this was a disaster. Oh my God, they were gonna kept throwing penalties, and the Commanders kept jumping off sides. First off, one, that was entertaining because the game was a blowout, and the Eagles were clearly dominant, going 7 for 7 in the red zone. And two, that was on the Commanders. The Eagles should not be penalized for that. It's just so absurd. Could you imagine if this was the Kansas City Chiefs and they did this, and Nick would say, this is unprecedented, this is so ridiculous, they just want to stop Patrick Mahomes? And then you'd have a lot of people who want to turn it into a more political thing and say, this is the people who are just trying to bring down Patrick Mahomes because of the way he looks relative to Tom Brady, and it's just, you know, Tom Brady, you know, he's this and that, and it would just go on and on and on and on. I mean, it's just absurd. You know, the Eagles proposed a rule, right? A change in the rules, and it was to give both teams the ball in overtime. A rule that did not go against them when they won the Super Bowl, in, you know, throughout the whole season. And yet they were just kind of like, hey, let's propose this rule change because it will make the NFL better. Not like, hey, we lost the Super Bowl because we didn't, you know, we got a bad seed because we lost the game in overtime because we didn't get the ball back again. Yeah, it's like, you know, that's, you know, you can make the argument being kind of a sore loser. The Lions, they proposed a rule change, and I forget exactly what it was, but it's something to do with like defensive penalties. It happens to be a penalty that they had like 11, 12 times. Like, it's something to do with defensive holding, or I forget exactly. And it was like, oh, okay. So the teams that got beat in specific ways, they're like, hey, this is not legal, this is not legal, let's change some rules here. And the Eagles, who I guess are just not gracious enough, they won in a way that didn't benefit them in terms of the rule change that they're trying to change, and it didn't hurt them in a way. So just unbelievable, man. Really, 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 really unbelievable. And to just play these absurd arguments of injuries, to say that, you know, running into the kickers, that's how they get injured, is when you run into them, is when you tackle them. So we should just make a rule that, hey, these are field goal kickers, these are punters. You know, you can try to block it, but you can't make any contact. You can't do it. These are kickers. These are quarterbacks. They get hurt when they get tackled. guys, these are quarterbacks. They're not as big as strong as, linemen and defensive ends, whatever. Like, we should probably make it so that you can't really tackle them. You could just, like, push them, two-hand touch, I mean, look, Kirk Cousins got injured. Aaron Rodgers got injured. Joe Burrow got injured. Look at these they're getting injured. It's, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Just, you sound ridiculous. You sound ridiculous. Oh, the Eagles, the entertainment's bad. Really? Really? Why are they one of the most watched teams in the NFL? Why was the Super Bowl the highest rated Super Bowl in NFL history? Why? Huh? Why is that? Can you tell me? The Eagles weren't entertaining enough? People just turned it off? Really? That's what we're saying? Yeah. I'll take made up nonsense for 2,000. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. Please drop some wisdom, some knowledge in the comment section. Please. Because we're just getting inundated with just insanity. So, keep that comment section strong. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way. Let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. And please bring it on. If you think that this should be banned, yeah, come see me. I'll be right there. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. The Eagles beat us. We need to make it harder for them to beat us. Oh gosh. Clowns. There's so many things that I really want to say, but I keep this pretty PG-13 to the best of my abilities. Heck, I try to keep this pretty PG. Oh man. We'll have to make a video, just Julian After Dark or something, man, because I just want to go off on stuff like this, because it's pathetic. It's pathetic. That's the word of the day. Pathetic.